Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Fierce and Flowing podcast. If you watch me regularly on YouTube, then you know that my set is different today. And we're going to be doing a few of these. And I'm calling this the Comfy Couch edition of the Fierce and Flowing podcast. So, for those of you who are listening, I am in my home right now on my delicious, big, comfy couch. And my guest today, Paola, who is not only my friend, but she's also my stylist, is joining me today on my couch. So she's got her sparkling water. I've got my delicious coffee. And if you guys know me and know me well, you know that I don't do a podcast without my coffee. So that's what I do. And I'm really excited about this episode, not only because if it were up to me, I would have every single guest on my couch, but what we're talking about today, styling and closet detox, we're going to connect it back to spirituality. Okay. And for me specifically, as a Feng Shui practitioner, we're going to talk about how it's deeply, deeply aligned and related to Feng Shui. Okay. And we're also going to talk about, as we do with many of my guests, transitioning from corporate to entrepreneurship, to back to corporate, to back to entrepreneurship, and that journey and the freedom that it gives us to be able to do that in our life, right? And not live with such sternness, but allowing life to lead us and following those markers. So, Paola, welcome.
Thank you for having me here on this. I can attest, this is an incredibly comfy couch.
Very comfy couch.
Yeah.
And so why don't we get started by, you sharing a little bit with our audience about who you are and what you're up to today.
Well, I am a business owner, and my business is dedicated to helping primarily women rediscover their joy, rediscover their confidence through their relationship to their wardrobe.
Mm-hmm.
So I hesitate to start describing myself by saying I'm a personal stylist, because I find that tends to shut people down. And that has actually become such a huge learning opportunity for me when I see that happen, because it speaks to the fear that a lot of us have that's been ingrained in us about fashion and dress and self-image. So if I start by saying I'm a personal stylist, people assume I'm judging them.
Wow.
And I am 100% dedicated in this business to just shattering all of that.
Mm-hmm.
The idea that fashion is judgment, the truth of the way that we've internalized the messaging from the fashion industry, and how through every closet detox, I feel like it's a little mini revolution. I don't know if
can we say massive revolution?
Yeah.
It's not many people. It's
I appreciate that.
It's very deep. It's very personal. It's very spiritual. I found it to be a very spiritual and no judgment at all whatsoever, which I really loved and appreciated. But continue.
So I love that you said that it's a massive revolution. And I don't know if we should curse on here,
you can curse.
Yeah, it's like a little fuck you, right? So it is a lot about tapping into the fuck you-ness within us.
Yeah.
Like, that's really, if I'm being just obviously you and I, we're good friends, and you know me on such a spiritual level. Like, that is really where it comes from. Like, if I'm just being honest, it comes from just kind of giving the finger to so many things.
Yeah.
And I've found that in doing that, it unlocks so much joy.
It really does. I'll tell you where the fuck you came from me in a couple different ways. First of all, we live in a very, what's the word that I want to use? Very judgmental city, where everyone's watching you. Everyone's, looking at you from head to toe. What is she wearing today? How is she styling herself? What accessories? And you do feel very judged in Miami, because it's a beautiful city with beautiful people, with a lot of resources, right? Mm-hmm. And so sometimes that fuck you comes from, and I'm being 100% honest here, right? Real people, spiritual people on earth, which makes us very human. And we have these human moments, which I've learned to pay attention to, to not criticize myself for it, but also pay attention and go, "Ooh, where did that come from?
Yeah.
Where did that come from and why? Why do I feel that way?" Right? So sometimes, let's say I'm in a very relaxed state like I am today. I'm wearing jeans and a t-shirt, feeling very comfortable and not necessarily wanting to be all stylistic with what I'm wearing. And let's say I go to a lunch and I decide I'm just going to wear jeans today instead of wearing a dress or,
Mhm.
you know, but yet everyone around me is all diddied up, and that fuck you comes to primarily to the first person I see where I'm like, damn, you did the thing that I didn't want to do. Fuck you. Like, why do you have to look so good?
Right.
Right. And I was lazy. I slacked. I didn't, dress to my best, to my capacity. Um, and then after doing the closet detox, what it did for me is that now my fuck you is kind of like to the world, like this feels good. Like I love what I wear. I don't judge it. I'm very conscious of what I put on, why I put it on, because we consciously went through my closet and we got rid of everything that didn't feel good, that didn't align with who I am and who I want to be. And so now my fuck you is kind of like, yeah, I look good. I wear it well. I have confidence no matter what I'm wearing.
You feel good.
You feel good.
So this is a really interesting thing that you brought up, that is, so in terms of where I am in my business.
Yes.
So I had dedicated I think it was 2022 full time to my business, but it was such an emotional year for me because so many things had changed, and a major relationship had ended, that I wasn't as available to my business as I needed to be. So I got a corporate job for a while, and now I'm back into my business and Monique can attest to this so much, right? Because I mean, we met at that moment, and in just 6 months, I think you can see
Yes.
the change in me.
Complete.
Well, what I wanted to say is that now where I am in my business with such a commitment to growing it and trying to systemize and record my process, there is an aspect of it that you're speaking to that I want to address with your audience, because I'll get a lot of questions, and I recognize this, like my clients get nervous. So she's coming, what is she gonna think of my closet? What is she gonna think of my style? And that's totally normal.
Yeah.
I so respect that. And they'll say things to me, because I went to a colorist or whatever. I know my colors. I'm a fall, I'm a spring, I'm a whatever it is. And I'm not minimizing those things. However, in my process, I don't ask you about that.
Right.
And I don't worry about it. And I don't even teach you that, because what I want the lesson to be and what I want you to learn, and that's why it makes me so happy to hear what you say, is that you're going to know when the outfit works because you're just going to feel good.
Yeah. And the proof is in the photos we take.
They're
because
fun.
There's so much joy. We take photos of every single outfit so that when you do have an event or you want to go anywhere, even if it's like a baseball game, but I want to look good and I want to feel good, I'm going to go through that list of photos and remind myself of what you styled for me. Yeah. And you're having your own photo shoot, and you can see that, like, the before and after of how you feel when you get started, which is nervous and kind of withdrawn, because yes, it is hard to bring someone into the world that you don't want to show.
I mean, that skeleton in the closet's
It is literally the skeleton in the closet. And it's a really fun transformation and a very energetic transformation. Before we get too far into this great conversation, because I want to dive into the change that you had recently in career and what that brought you, because I think there's so many lessons there, and also divine work, right? Like nothing happens without a purpose, and I know that you had to go through that in order to learn something, to change something, and to be who you are right now, which is different from who you were, right, 6 months ago. But before we get there, I'd love for you to share, among your many, many fierce moments that you've had in your life, what's the one that you would like to share with our audience today and kind of dive into?
Well, I guess what's coming up for me right now is just so that your audience knows. Well, I had been with my business, struggling, not making any money, emotionally not knowing where to go, so closed off, not even like with all the great mentors and advice that I was getting, just not being in a place that I knew what to do with it.
Mhm.
So I'm like, I was really called to just get a job.
Yeah.
And I had been, so my background, I'm a career teacher, and that's still what I do in Closet Detox. So I've been a teacher since 2001. I taught full time until 2014. And then I started a copywriting business. And so I'm a writer, and I was always copywriting while I was teaching. Um, and I did well with my copywriting until I just didn't want to do it anymore. And a friend of mine, a teacher friend of mine, offered me a part-time job, and I went to her school. She was an administrator there, and she was somebody that I met early in my career. We had grown up together though, but we never were friends until
Mhm.
we worked together. And we would dress for each other at school. I mean, it was like, it was, oh, there comes, Miss So and so and Miss Arencibia. Like, it was our catwalk, and we did it for each other, and we celebrated, and we so had that joy in common.
Right.
So when she hired me so many years later, because now I'm talking about 2019,
Okay.
she was going through a major moment in her life, and we just we looked at each other. We said, "Why don't we? What are we waiting for? Why don't we just do the dream job?
Mhm.
Why don't we become stylists?" And so we incorporated Serious Style, April of 2020.
Oh boy. Wow. And 1 month prior is when I moved into here.
Yeah.
It's a big year of change for a lot of
Actually,
people.
I'm sorry.
I'm
I said
noticing.
I said April of 2020. I'm sorry. It was February of 2020.
February of 2020,
March of 2020, the world shuts
the
down,
world shuts
and we
down.
had planned our launch event for April. That's why I had April in the mind.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, needless to say, Serious Style never, with the two of us running it,
Hmm.
never took off in the way that we had imagined, right?
Right.
I mean, right away we had to pivot. We're still teaching. She lost her mom.
Wow.
And then one thing after another until we basically stopped doing the business. And then, so one fierce moment for me was when I decided to buy her half of the business.
Okay.
So I did that at the end of 2021. I spent 2022 trying to get the business off, and then all these emotional things happened. And since I am the business and I
Yeah.
am the product, um, I not being available shut me down. So I decided to go back into it to get a full-time copywriting job.
Okay.
I make a list, and in my list, I say, I want a job. I wanted to pay this amount, and I want it to teach me what I need for
Hmm.
Serious Style.
Okay. So you manifested this is
I manifested
basically
this.
what you're saying.
So
Yes.
I put nothing else on that list.
That's it.
That's it. So I did very few interviews. I get this one interview. I don't know how I felt about it, but I get to the next round. I get to the next round, and I get the offer on March 12th of this year. That night, my mother passes away unexpectedly.
Wow.
Yeah.
This is an interesting cycle
Yes.
for your business partner, right?
Yes.
Losing her mother,
Yeah.
you buying her out, started a new cycle for you.
Yeah.
And then your mother passing, you manifesting this job, stopped the cycle of Serious Style for a while.
Yeah.
It was almost like,
Yeah, it's interesting. I hadn't seen it.
yeah. So what's coming up in my mind, also as a tarot reader, is the World card, which is the final card in the deck, in the major arcana, and it's endings and new beginnings. So it's almost like the world stopped for a moment.
Yeah.
And
Absolutely.
it was like, we're bringing you here because you asked for it, and this is what you need right now. For me, it was almost like what it feels like is like a form of healing.
Yeah, it was incredible. Like, there was a lot of things because I had the privilege of being there when she passed. Um, Even this job, because it was a commute for me, would have been a struggle for me to take, because I knew, she wasn't in great health. There wasn't anything, she did pass away suddenly, but you want to be there for your elderly mom. And I mean, everything just really cleared out. And so I have felt so close to her. And the grieving process has been so joyful at times. I don't know.
That's beautiful.
So what's crazy, so my first day of work was March 25th, which was the last, there was an eclipse that day.
It was an eclipse that day. Yes.
Yeah, it was an eclipse that day. So,
and we know that, and maybe you don't, but as an astrologer, eclipses are extremely important in our karmic life cycle. They're associated with the nodes of the moon, which represent South Node, what we came into this world with, our gifts, our wisdom, our previous life experiences, those things that feel comfortable to us, that are like default tendencies. But in this lifetime, they serve as, hey, yes, use them because you know how to use them. But in order for you to evolve in this lifetime, you need to start getting uncomfortable, letting those go because there's a bigger plan for you. And that bigger destined plan is the North Node. And so every time we have these eclipses in this lifetime, it's reminding us of the lesson that we need to learn in that moment to clear out the past so that we can move forward into the future.
I mean, it's there are so many things that in the realm of spirituality, when you hear sort of language like that, seems so abstracted, but it's like literally what my life has been like what you just said. So many things went away. My cat who came into my life when I got divorced years ago, she died during this cycle.
Well, and I'm going to blow your mind right now. Okay. Because that cycle of eclipses was in Aries and Libra, which is relationships. Okay. Relationships that need to end. Physically, right? Because we know spiritually those relationships don't end. The relationships that need to end physically so that new relationships can start. Hence the new role that you started and all of those new relationships that you built.
Absolutely. So I want to go back a moment to my list and that I wanted a job that was going to give me everything that I needed for serious style. My limited human brain assumed that would be a job in fashion because I was craving kind of learning more about textiles and just things like that. So I was like, okay, that'll be the right job. I got a job in private equity. Writing educational, like writing content, marketing content for educational products. So I learned so much about business in those 6 months. So then at the end of the 6 months, right before this eclipse, have the man who hired me, who had just been hired a month before me, go, we don't need your position anymore. And I was like, okay.
And I've learned so much. Like I remember,
I was like, I'm ready. I mean, I got on the phone with you right when I got laid off.
Yes, you did.
And I was like, this is.
Yeah. And I think that those of us who are, call it what you want, spiritual, we look for the bigger meaning in life. We see these moments as, okay, the universe is pushing me in a different direction. It doesn't mean that you can't be sad about it or angry about it. But it shifts quickly because you're like, okay, what do I need to see that I'm not seeing now? And how can I take part in it, right? How can I put my energy into it so that I'm actually moving forward? And I do remember you telling me that what you were learning, because they took you through an extensive training. And it was incredible, the training that you received. It was almost like just going to school for free, and that is a gift.
Absolutely. No, the amount of business learning, and then the position that I'm in because of my mother's passing, that it allowed for us to sell her apartment and for me to have some funds.
Right.
I mean,
you're in a better place.
I'm in such a better place. And the daily challenge is to accept it, to not fall into the old habits of scarcity and fear, and counting, like, and constantly, because the Capricorn and Capricorn
double Capricorn,
double Capricorn, and like dividing how many days and just being like, if Yeah, because the gift of loss is that is the acceptance of the now and understanding how guided you are and the way that it turns our perceptions on its head. And so to me, the daily thing is just to remind myself that I have signed up for this.
Yes.
I am on this roller coaster and I
Yes.
am not getting off.
No.
And it's just an incredible feeling.
Yeah.
Like I think we were talking about some other aspects of my spiritual practice the other day, and I told you I'm like I felt like I can eat raw meat. Like
Yes, you do.
I just
I love that.
and to not be fearful of my own power.
Yes.
And to say, I mean, I'm 48 years old, I'm going to be 49 in a couple months. To say that I feel that for the first time in my adult life and to not fear it
Yeah.
is where I am.
It's so beautiful. Welcome back.
Thank you. Thank you.
Welcome back to your fierceness.
Thank
Yes.
you. Happy to be here.
We have those moments where we lose it. We lose
Absolutely.
sight of it. We lose touch. We fall into victimhood, right? Why me? Why am I here again? Why haven't I been able to move on? I've been there so many times. It's painful.
And we outsource our power.
We do outsource our power.
I think we tend to do that as women. Many times we do that in our relationships, like with men.
Yeah.
Or we do it to our children.
Yes. Yes.
I can't be me. I can't be powerful because they need to have power.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's something that I've been reflecting on a lot. And I have to say that the daily practice of dressing for me has kept me in that meditation every day. Why won't I wear this? Let me stop for a second.
Mm-hmm.
Why don't I give this more time? Why don't I take those extra few minutes? Particularly for me, because it's something that I so enjoy.
Yeah.
And that is really actually where the service of the closet detox came from. But over time has become such a much more profound experience for me personally. As like I said before, I wasn't ready to embody the business in 2022.
Yeah.
And 2023 even, but now I am. And so I have to put myself to task.
Yeah.
Or I choose to.
Yes.
And so I ask myself that daily. Like, why don't I just...
That's really powerful. And let's jump in there because I wasn't planning on asking this question, but now that you bring it up, I will be very open and vulnerable because when you came and did my closet detox and styled me, you're like, I want you to wake up every morning and I want you to get dressed because I work for myself and I'm a comfy type of person.
Mhm.
I don't need to go anywhere today. Why on earth am I going to get dressed? Why am I going to put makeup on? Most of my clients know me well. They've gotten to know me. So, I can be on a Zoom in a ponytail and, and it's fine. And there is where my resistance still lies. I have these days where I'm like, I know I should be dressed. I know that I should be wearing something else. But my morning routine is I'm very consistent with my morning routine. And so I wake up, I do my whatever I need to do in the bathroom, get my face ready, clean up, I meditate, and then I take my dog on a long walk, which means I put on yoga clothes and come back. I do some yoga, I do some strength training. And by the time I'm finished, it's 9:00 and I just immediately sit down and start doing what I need to do for work for that day, but I don't get out of my yoga clothes.
Mhm.
It's just this deeply ingrained habit that I do want to break. I haven't stopped to really ask myself the questions or to change it. And there are things I do want to change, but from your perspective, because you do this for yourself, why do you feel it's so important for us to do that every morning? And let's just focus on women,
So
why is it important for a woman to do that for herself every morning?
So that's really interesting because I'm a big fan. I'm somebody that needs to recuperate my energy or recharge my batteries. Like I need to cocoon.
Yes.
So I'll go 3 days in my PJs at the house.
Yeah.
I think the interesting question to me is, where's the should coming from?
Damn you.
I learned from the best.
She's coaching me now. Okay.
Is to investigate the should. And that's something
Mm,
I'll speak generally on that. And then we could
yes.
do this right now here too if you want. But because here's the thing. The should has all the answers, right?
Mm-hmm.
I don't think women should get up every morning and get dressed.
Okay.
I think women don't know that they can, and that doing it for themselves is enough. From there, do whatever the fuck you want with that.
Okay.
You know what I want to wear today? Like yoga, this, because I feel hot, whatever. This is, but that it's a choice, that we are not dressing because a certain way, because we don't feel that we have the right to occupy any other kind of space. That's where my
Fuck you.
you see, this is the reaction I want. That's the thing. It's
Yeah, I guess that there is something there. You know, I had a long career in, I call it corporate, even though it really wasn't corporate, but I had corporate like positions where I dealt with the corporate world, with the professional world, with very high level executives for so many years. Not that I don't now. My clients are those people, but it's in a different way. And I had to dress to the nines. I had to look good every single day. And it was such a part of who I was and how people experienced me, that I think there's still an unconscious judgment that I have, that I don't allow myself to actually enjoy the new life that I've created for myself, which is do what you want, girl. Wear what you want. You don't want to wear
Yes.
makeup today? Don't wear it.
Yeah.
You know, the people who are going to love you are going to love you the way you are. And it's not that I don't dress up when I need to. I do. Yesterday, I went, you know, to the university to judge a competition, and I dressed to the nines and I looked and felt great. But doing that every morning also feels heavy
Absolutely.
for
It's
no
all-
reason.
So
Yeah.
so here's the thing that is, you know, it's really funny because I always said that I was an effective teacher, like
Mhm.
classroom teacher, because I was like such a mediocre student. And I'm sure we've all had this experience. Like you can have the most brilliant mathematician, scientist teaching you, but that person isn't necessarily a good teacher, right? Because they get it so easily.
Right.
And I feel that in some ways, that's something that I try to be very mindful of, because I find so much play when I dress. And I guess because of the way my mother was, who was like the ultimate, like, fuck you for so many things.
She like,
No, she was not at all.
okay. Okay.
No, my mother was like, did not give a shit.
Okay.
My mother, I don't think my mother had worn a bra in like 35 years. Okay.
I
And
love
you
it.
came to her house, and if she felt like being dressed up, she was dressed up. If not, no, she was none of that.
Okay.
So that's really interesting. As I hear your questions, I'm hearing like what it is I'm actually speaking to,
Yes. Yes.
and how we're coming from two different paradigms.
We are.
So because
Yeah.
for me, even as a little girl, and I was fat with the sweaty bangs and all the things, but I loved playing dress up.
Okay, great. Because that was one of my questions. Like, I want to see the connection between who you were as a child, because we're so unfiltered, and how that came into
I
your
loved
business.
it. I loved going into my mother's closet and putting on her shoes and putting on just whatever. Like I loved it, and I was allowed to do it, and she didn't care, and it was just, it was so joyful for me.
Yeah.
And so, and then in my adult life, when I met with my former partner of Serious Style, her name is Christina. When I met her as a teacher, we both played in the same way. So
Right.
I met that
Childhood friend.
yeah, exactly. And so I met that joy again
Yeah.
in dressing for each other. So dressing as play. And so what's interesting to me, so what I hear is the chore aspect, which is a very real thing that you still that you associate with
Yes.
getting dressed.
Yes.
And I hear this phrasing a lot of because some clients will, I've actually had clients approach me and say, oh, can you come in and talk to my staff?
Right.
And so that these, you know, young women understand how they're being perceived.
Yes.
And I I get that. That's a very real thing. However, I also tell them, I'm like, but I'm going to go in there and I'm going to tell them how to dress, so how they want to feel.
Yeah.
What's going to tap into what's making them feel more confident. And if they're
Mhm.
choosing their clothes because they're minimizing themselves, which I'm just going to say it, 99.999% of the time, that is what we're doing.
Right.
So what is it that I'm asking of my clients? I'm asking you not to minimize yourself. I don't know what that's going to look like.
Right. Right.
I mean, there are definitely very practical things that I'm going to come in with. Get a
Yeah.
solid white button-down shirt, get a good pair of jeans. Like, there are practical tools that I'm going to give you.
Yes.
But what you're speaking to about getting up every day, what if me and what I want to do today is enough
Mhm.
for all of the decisions I'm about to make?
Mhm. Mhm. I love that. I love that because I think what I'm feeling now is really that I need to celebrate um what I did when I transitioned out of that 9 to 5,
Mm-hmm.
you know, living, and I created the type of morning that I really wanted for myself, which was more spiritual, right? It wasn't about getting up and hurrying up and rushing and putting on makeup and, going out there to make sure that I fit the
Right.
the bill, so to speak. And it wasn't that I didn't enjoy dressing up. I did, but what my soul was really craving was the slow life,
Mm-hmm.
going slow and being okay wearing your yoga clothes all day or your jammies, right? If
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't going to get on a Zoom today or film a podcast, then I would be in my jammies all day doing my creative work, which felt good.
Mm-hmm.
It felt really good because I built this, I designed this life, so thank you. I think that I've kind of transformed it and pulled the judgment back out of it.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
and look, and that, like anything else, is a practice.
Mm-hmm.
That's a muscle. So for me, the closet and the outfits are just such an accessible opportunity to do that, to make the decision. That's why the detox is so important. And
Yeah.
let me tell you, and that service sort of evolved by contact. It's like I didn't go into Serious Style going, okay, we're going to start with these closet detoxes. It's evolved into what it is because of what I was encountering when I was going into these closets.
Right.
And it was a lot of like, okay, so show me a pair of jeans. And it's like, okay, these don't fit me anymore. My mother gave these to me. This was from my mother-in-law and just watching the energy and the battery go down just to grab a pair of jeans. And that's when I was like, oh my God, what an amazing opportunity this is
Yeah.
to literally detox that stuff.
Why don't you talk about what your process is? Because I think that would be really helpful for those who are like, okay, what is a closet detox and what is styling and how you approach it, which anyone who has seen style shows, which there are a million, they're so different from your process.
Yeah.
It really is. This is a life and energy building process, not the opposite. So share with us your process.
So in my process, when I'm invited into your closet,
Yes.
the first thing I like to do is say, okay, well, let's put together something that you'd like, for whatever your objective is. We'll start in very grounded terms.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, I need stuff to go to work, let's say. Okay, put a work outfit together. Okay, so they'll put that together and then I'll say something like, so who's a style icon, somebody who's a style that you like? And depending on the person, I'll get some pushback, right? It'll be like, no, I don't really follow that, or I don't really care, and da da da. But after like some conversation, it always could be, whose style I love? And okay,
Right.
so I'm gonna give an example, and if she watches this podcast, she'll know who she is. Um, Resisting this conversation forever, and we got into this sort of little philosophical talk, and I said, because the thing is that when you tell me who your style icon is, um, you're showing me your inner light.
Yeah, exactly.
Like that's you.
Yeah.
And
It's like you're flipping through a magazine and going, "Ooh, I would love to look like that.
exactly.
I
And
can
I'm
feel this way."
exactly. You're telling me when you tell me who style you like, you're telling me how you want to feel.
Yeah.
That's exactly it. So that style icon becomes sort of the shorthand in this process for me, right? And so this one person was like, no, I hate fashion and this and this and that and the other, but she kept engaging me. And so finally she's like, I love Sheryl Sandberg
Oh.
and Oprah. I was like, oh my.
You say it that way.
Yeah, I was like, casi nadie. Okay, so 2 billionaires, it's on.
All right.
So when we get to that moment and you've got your clothes on and you tell me, Sheryl Sandberg and Oprah, I see that in you instantly.
Yeah.
So I start to dig through and start to style you with what you already have. And what I'm waiting for is the moment you light up.
Yeah.
That's when the detox really begins.
Yeah.
Like that you look at yourself in the mirror and you go,
Yeah. Why couldn't I figure this out?
yeah. And it's just and it's consistent every time. And I don't stop. Like sometimes it's
No.
quick.
And for us, how many sessions did we have? I mean, I know I have a lot of stuff, but
well, we had, I think, like 3 sessions, but that initial moment where you
Yeah.
look at yourself,
yeah,
we got to it fairly quickly.
we did.
But I mean, sometimes it'll be like an hour. My point is that like the process,
Yes.
I need to get there because we're then going to edit all your outfits to that feeling.
Right. Yes. And that's exactly the way it felt. And it was almost immediate. And here's the best part of it for me is that because the majority of my closet came from my mother, who I adore and love her style, and it's good quality stuff, I felt guilty not wearing it. I felt guilty not keeping it. But the truth is that not everything looked good on me. Not everything served the style that I lit up with. Some of them did.
Mm-hmm.
And so I needed permission from somebody to say, it's okay to let it go.
Yeah.
It's not you. It's okay to let it go. Now go give it to someone else who can use it, who
Yeah.
can benefit from it. And it was like a ton of weight had been lifted because I didn't want to betray
Yeah.
my mother, and not that she would have ever taken it that way. She watches all of my podcasts, so she's listening right now. Hi, Mom. So yeah, that's what it did for me, and still to this day, because it was a while since we did the detox. Just the other day, I was like, and I told you, I said, I feel like I've run out of all of my outfits, and you're like, no, you didn't.
Well, and so let's go play.
Right. Let's go back and play. But I went back to all the photos.
Oh, great.
And I picked out an outfit that I hadn't worn yet.
Yeah.
And I said, okay, so go wear this.
So that's a great thing. So to sort of make the process more concrete, because I know that was like
Yes.
So I'll style you into getting to that feeling. And then from there, we do a very practical purge.
Yes.
Okay, you weren't Oprah, but we had talked about like maybe
Gabby Bernstein,
right? We talked about Stevie Nicks with you.
Yes,
Yeah.
Stevie Nicks.
So we had this kind of like boho thing going. So when we evaluate, so then there's a practical, okay, let's grab all your pants, put on the pants. I don't know. You'll be like, do you like these pants? And I'll say, I don't know. Would Gabby Bernstein wear them? Would
Right.
Oprah wear them? Would whoever it is wear them? You can decide.
Yeah.
Because you already felt it. You're owned a little bit of that light.
Mm-hmm.
And you're like, no, she wouldn't. Or yeah, I think with this shirt. And then and then she gets bossy. And then it's like, it's move out. And then it's how about with this shirt? And then, and then the ideal experience is that where
It's so creative.
Yes, I start to see you do it, but in a very practical sense. We try on the pants, we try on the shirts.
Yeah.
And we make the outfits.
Let's talk about purging, because that's a really important part of this, because it's energetic. And now I want to kind of get into the Feng Shui, because a big part of my business is Feng Shui. And Feng Shui is energy. It's like everything inside of us, we are energy. Everything around us is energy. Yes, it looks solid, but it really isn't, and what we feel becomes our physical reality, right? Manifestation, but also our environment, how it looks, how it feels, becomes our emotions, right? And it's either going to work for us or we're going to suffer because of it, right? However you want to define suffering, in small scales and in large scales. And so in Feng Shui, in my process, decluttering is the first thing that removes so much of this weight, right? You may remember how many huge bags I got out of that closet. It must have been like 10 bags, literally. I was floored, I was just completely floored that I had purged all of that. And that's how I felt. So it's like, there's this release,
Yeah.
there's this ability to breathe again because I have cleared energetic space, right? And in Feng Shui, when we clear out something, we open the space for something else.
Mhm.
And that's what this did. And I'm pretty sure you see that in your clients. But let me stick with this for a moment, because in Feng Shui, a lot of times I'll get clients that are like, this is not working in my life. My relationship is not working. My spouse and I are arguing. We're barely looking at each other. We don't have intimacy, yada, yada, yada. Or maybe it's wealth, right? I can't bring in money into my business. I don't know what's happening. And the closet and where it's located is in an area that represents life. Okay. So if I were to come into someone's home and go into their closet and it's chaotic, you can't really breathe in there, you can't really see, it's crowded, it's stagnant, and excuse me, and you feel heavy when you're in there, and when you walk out, you want to look at what area of life that is, right? And for many people, it just so happens that where there's clutter, where there's disorganization, where there isn't intention, there is an area of their life that is stagnant, that needs support, right? And so if somebody were to come to me and say, hey, I'm having relationship issues, I would go immediately to the relationship area of the home. And if there's a closet there and it needs support, I'd be like, hey, you really need to consider, a closet detox, because it's gonna uplift the energy. It's gonna open it up. And almost immediately you start seeing how relationships begin changing, right? And this goes for any area of the home, but there is an energetic tie. And I wonder,
Absolutely.
do you see that energetic lift, that release in your clients? And maybe afterward they'll call you and they're going to be like, you have no idea what's changed in my life holistically
Yeah.
because of the closet detox.
So I'm gonna mention two things. One, many years ago, I started belly dancing with Belly Motions. Portia, shout out to her.
I know what she is. Yeah, she's awesome.
Yeah. So, and I remember, and she had just opened her studio, and I was one of her early clients. And she said something. I mean, she's such a beautiful person, but she said something that always stayed with me. And she's like, I always love to know where belly dance is going to take my clients. Not because we're going to become professional belly dancers, but because of all the shaking of that area.
Oh, yes, the
All that-
sacral and the root chakra,
Yes.
opening it up. Oh
Yeah.
my goodness.
So many years later, and I'm so blessed to still be in touch with Portia, and so I think of that line all the time. It's funny, the things that stay with you. And now my experience with the closet detox is similar. And I get to ask myself that. I'm like, I wonder where this is going to take this person. Because, and help me here with the analogy, because what you're saying, how I've interpreted when I go into a closet, to me, the closet is a reflection of our self-talk.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That's why I give that example of wading through all those clothes and you're these little judgments you're reminding yourself of.
Yeah.
Just to get to a pair of pants.
Right. So you're clearing that.
Yes.
You're clearing those toxic thoughts, those default tendencies that are showing up emotionally, but that is a clearing. Yeah. That then transcends the closet.
Transcends the closet.
Yeah, and transcends the home as well.
And also, and I want whoever's watching this to understand too. It's like, I'm not going in there and going like, get rid of all that. And that you're no. A lot of times what we do is let's just rearrange this talk.
Sure.
Let's just put things in a different place.
Right.
Which speaks to your work. What happens if we put the stuff that we really like in the front? Yeah. And so, or somebody will ask me like, we'll come across a dress. Oh my God, this dress was from when I was 15. I'm like, you're not going to get rid of that. Look how you light up when you touch that. So you're never going to wear it again. Right. It's an archival piece. Again, it's your self-talk. If you look at that and it's just, of course that's going to stay in there, because that's what I want the experience of your closet to be. Yeah. That you open it, and typically it's one of the first things we do in the morning, right? And that it's like, as opposed to.
Right. And that's how I felt. Yeah, that's how I felt when I walked into my closet. And I knew that I needed to purge a lot. For me, a lot of it was purging. And and the rest of it was bonus because I was like, wow. Now, not that I would say I have not a bullet. What do you call it?
A capsule
A
wardrobe?
capsule wardrobe. You built a capsule wardrobe for me with what I have. In my mind, to get to a capsule wardrobe, I would need to purge a lot more and get even more simplistic,
Yeah.
which a part of me really wants that, you know? Um, but
But a part of you perhaps doesn't.
right,
Yeah,
right.
and
And
that's
that's
fine.
and I've come
Yeah,
to that
yeah,
realization that I need more than a capsule.
yeah.
You know, I definitely need more than a capsule, but I know how to work the capsule that
When you need it, yeah.
that you created for me,
Yeah,
right? And so, and now when I go shopping, I I know how to build the pieces
yeah,
based on the style that you helped me create that lit me up, right? So it's just a beautiful process. And I highly encourage it as part of Feng Shui. And that's a point that I really wanted to make because so often I get questions of, what is Feng Shui and what are the things that I can do to clear my energy and clear the energy in my home so that I'm releasing what needs to be released so I can call in new things, new
yeah.
energy into my life.
So to finish the answer to your question, so I had a client who booked me, I don't know, like a year and a half ago, and she had booked me for 3 months, I think. And then halfway through the process, she's like, Paola, I can't, financial restraints and this and the other. But I had done a detox and, like with most of my clients, we stay in good touch and they're all amazing women. And so now all this time later, like a year and a half later, I see her that she's like this bombshell. She just looks so like, she was in a major, she had just bought a home and she was kind of like, she had just gotten through a divorce, started a business, like so many things. And she was just like, okay, I need the detox to help me, help me, help me. And then she's like, I can, I can, I can. And I was like, okay, fine. Um, so then like so I just make a comment telling her how beautiful she looks. And I was floored when she said this started with the detox, that she didn't even complete,
Right.
and I say that obviously, I say that humbly. Um, but it's amazing the work, the energetic work,
Yeah.
like what you do, how it's just not theory, it's not an abstraction.
No,
It's
no.
a concrete,
It becomes tangible.
it's and instantly.
Yeah, it's energetic work that becomes tangible
Yeah.
almost immediately.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really a beautiful process. And I can see how it's something I know that I would want to do at least like once a year.
Mm.
Not as complex as it was the first time, but to keep it going because the reality is that we're not perfect. I'm not perfect. I'm a feng shui practitioner and my home is not perfect. I almost kind of purge a little bit every day, going, gosh, that corner is really bugging me. I
Mm.
remind myself of what area of life that corner is. And I'm like, clean it up right now, girl. Like, take 5 minutes,
Yeah.
reorganize it. You can do it in small little bits and pieces to give yourself, the remind yourself that you're human, but with all this wisdom and all this knowledge, do something with it.
Yeah.
Do something with it to improve your life. So, love, love, love that. Let's talk a little bit about just the entrepreneurship side, right? Because so many of my viewers and listeners either want to be an entrepreneur, are in the middle of transitioning, um, or have been in it for a while and they're going through the motions of it, which you and I both can speak to. You mentioned in the preparation that this business that you've gone through a lot of deaths and rebirths through this business. Speak a little bit to that.
So the gift of entrepreneurship is that your business will never be bigger than you.
I got to sit with that for a minute. Okay. Oh, God.
It hurts, doesn't it?
That's so good. I had to like energetically pull it in. So, wow. Okay.
You ready?
I'm
Because
ready.
I'm
Keep
coming in.
going.
I'm coming in hard.
Keep going. Preach, preach.
So, not that doesn't mean that I have to be all things and all roles. However, I don't get to abdicate the creator role. And
Right.
whether we look at that archetypally, tarot
Sure.
wise,
Sure.
however it is. So my ability, so why I call it the gift of entrepreneurship is because it forces you to become a bigger person.
It does.
Your business cannot outgrow you. And so it's interesting because where I am right now, where I know I have so much knowledge, and then daily putting it into practice. So for me, as a stylist, as somebody who wants to live an example of serious style, I want to embody it. And again, it's not because I feel like I have to go out dressed like a fashionista, but I wake up every morning and I'm like, if I really believe in what I am offering, then this is an opportunity of meditation for myself. So I'm going to ask myself, when I hear the words in my head, I'll just wear this.
Mm, I love that.
Why am I just?
Why just?
Why just? No. And let me live it.
Yeah.
So there's that aspect. You have to believe in your product.
Yes.
You have to believe in your product.
Yes.
Non-negotiable. The other part that entrepreneurship brings to light is, where are you not willing to face things? Oh, I wish I could just hire somebody that person is not going to care more about it. You don't have to know every aspect of the role, but you have to know enough that you can hold that person accountable.
Absolutely. You can't just pass the baton. No, you're so right about that. So right about that.
And so as a result of knowing that, because of the success that I want, I can't help but see where I'm doing that in my personal life. Where am I avoiding? Entrepreneurship forces you to face it if success is what you want.
Yeah.
Putting yourself out there. Oh, I want to have the business, but I don't want to put myself out there. Well, that might not be an option for you.
Right. And you may not be an entrepreneur. You may not, it may not be the best role for you.
Exactly.
If you're not willing to put yourself out there.
Your success may depend.
Yes.
Are you willing to do that?
Yeah.
And then putting yourself out there, what does that mean?
Yeah.
So it's really interesting, because of you, that I was introduced to tarot in such a lovely way. I've been teaching myself how to read tarot, and obviously I ask you questions, and tarot has very much connected me to my intuition. So this practice of entrepreneurship that demands so much of you, so much confidence in you, and confidence, even if you're making the wrong decision, to say, but it is my decision.
Right.
So tarot has given me that connection. And so as I put myself out there more and more through social media and stuff like that, if there's something I don't like, I had a moment recently where there was somebody that I blocked simply because I didn't like the energy. There wasn't any and I'm like, I don't have to wait. My intuition is enough.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I've done that. You don't even have to ask permission. You don't have to.
You know how hard that was?
Yeah.
I couldn't, I was really sitting with myself as I was going through that decision. I'm like, how interesting that this is hard for me. I did it, but I was like, wow. I'm like, there's not a single one of my amazing friends that wouldn't just say to me, just block that person. Like, who cares? Like, what are you But I was like, but the real.
But you're a supportive, compassionate person. That's a big part of who you are, right? And I think that there's that part of us that is like, why would I block someone just because they aren't like me, or they don't think like me, or they have a different opinion, or they communicate differently? I can see how a person with a lot of compassion would say like, but then there's this aspect of what you're talking about, which is standing in your power.
Yeah.
And claiming that, this is what I want in my business. This is how I want to feel in my business.
Right.
And this is the kind of support I want in my business. And really today, I feel that social media is an energetic extension of who we are.
Absolutely.
So I don't want any bad juju.
Exactly. And by the way, this person did not make a comment, did not say, it was just juju.
You felt it.
I just felt it.
Yeah.
And I was like, this is either an opportunity for me to people please or to strengthen my commitment to my intuition.
Yeah.
And so I did it.
People please, and you have a lot of earth in your chart. Obviously, double Capricorn. Earthy people are very people pleasing.
And the triple princess.
And you are a triple princess. And
I just wanted
yes.
We hadn't said that yet.
Hadn't said that. In Feng Shui astrology. So I use two different types of astrology. My flow roadmap, which is a 1-page dashboard that I created specifically for busy women, executives, entrepreneurs, that want to feel more flow every day and honor the energy of the year they're in and every single month. um that tool and wisdom tells you your archetype, right? Or different archetypes. It just so happens that Paola has the same archetype 3 times, so it's very strong for her. And the princess, she's called the princess or the perfect hostess. They they suffer a lot because they give of themselves way too much. They prioritize the opinions and the judgments of others versus their own inner wisdom and knowledge. And that's something that Paola gets to work on,
Yeah.
in this lifetime. So absolutely, you're right about that. And so you've taken that back. You've taken back a lot of your power.
Yeah.
I have to say too that it's just styling is such a perfect career for the perfect hostess, for the princess, because it's about beauty, it's about artistry, but it comes from a very sacred place, right? So doing things that are sacred is very important for that archetype, and the work you're doing is sacred. It's so sacred. It really is. um we've talked about so much. I think a good way to kind of begin to wrap it up, is by talking about your spirituality. Like, what supports you? What kind of practices have you built, emotionally, physically, spiritually, that help you on this journey of entrepreneurship and staying true to who you are, and continuing to step into your power and trusting yourself?
So in 2019, I was introduced to this platform through a podcast. Is it okay for me to name it?
Absolutely.
It's called To Be Magnetic, and
Okay.
it was founded by a woman named Lacey Phillips out in California, um, who is, I find, a very intuitive, gifted teacher. So she was being interviewed on a podcast, and then immediately I started to follow her podcast, which is called the Expanded Podcast. And shortly thereafter, got into her platform. It's a series of workshops and meditations, which she actually calls deep imaginings because they're hypnotic. And I mean, I have no words for like how it has transformed my life. And so it's really interesting because of where at that time I was going to this job that I hated. I was pretty much crying every morning. And um, so that's why I was listening to it.
Okay.
And then so I left that job, and then so many things, and then found and then opened Serious Style.
Yeah.
And then, obviously, the pandemic and life and all the things that I talked about earlier happened. And I feel so supported by this practice, which asks of you to revisit your inner child, to confront and integrate your shadow.
Mm-hmm.
And so many things, because I can really be a slow learner, that this practice and this platform has been talking about over the years. Really, for the first time now, I feel like I get it. And so back to the entrepreneurship and how it supports me. Lacey Phillips talks about like dog paddling, like that energy, how that energy like repels, right, your manifestation. So if you're like, when am I gonna get money, and why hasn't this client called me back, and why hasn't it closed? The dog paddling, right? So I have been in a dog paddle for years. So now what I do differently is that when I want something, or I'm in the process of trying to manifest something, instead of before I go for it, I go in.
Oof.
And our good friend Adriana Foster,
Yes,
is the queen of this.
She's going to be on my couch next week.
Yes, stay tuned. I mean, wow, what a treat.
That's a t-shirt. My boyfriend and I talk about t-shirts all the time, because we have these wonderful sayings, and we're like, oh my God, that's another t-shirt. I need to start writing them down. Yeah, before I go forward for it, before I go for it, I go in. Okay.
I learned this, Adriana Foster obviously has dedicated her life to this kind of work. And then another great Adriana friend of mine who's transformed so much in the last year, she talks a lot about this too, how she got to this place in her life. And she's like, you think it's out there, but it's in here. And it's so counterintuitive. or maybe not, but it's so counter to everything that we're taught.
Not
Go,
anymore.
hustle, get, grab, right?
It's let me sit with this, let me feel it.
Yeah, and right, let me meditate on it.
Yeah.
And that the work is here. Like, I think you're the problem. No, it's me.
Yes.
How is your behavior a reflection of something in me? How is your hesitation a reflection of my hesitation? And this sounds like so impractical in a business planning kind of way. It is essential. Essential
Yeah.
to being an entrepreneur. I mean, in whatever way that practice looks for you,
I
right?
totally believe that, because I think I think I've probably mentioned this in many of my episodes, that when you start this journey, you're talking to a lot of people, you're asking for a lot of advice, you're bouncing things off a lot of people, and they're going to give you a lot of answers and a lot of suggestions and a lot of advice, which can also be very confusing.
Mhm.
And if we don't stop and pause and say, thank you for all of the advice, thank you for all the wisdom, but what feels good to me right now in this moment,
Mhm.
right? And listen for our higher selves, we're going to go off on all these tangents
Yeah.
and end up coming right back and going, I didn't go anywhere,
Yeah.
you know?
I mean, that's a huge aspect of it. And for me, the energy, that dog pat, I want to go back to that
Yeah.
because I hear that a lot just in my friends who are also entrepreneurs. Um, because, and again, like I mentioned before, I'm in such a different place. So now when I'm like, oh God, I called these leads and I didn't get an answer or whatever, let me follow up. I'll follow up here first.
Yeah.
Where is my block?
Mm.
Where is my intent? And to be open to where that reflection, that meditation, and again, in the practice that I do, it's a hypnosis. So you get the opportunity to reprogram memories and to give new, sort of find new neural pathways for your emotions. That work is going to lead me to a different kind of decision making.
Yes.
And it all goes back to my business isn't going to be better than me.
Yeah.
Isn't going to be bigger than me.
Oh, I think that's going to be the title of this podcast. And this is Ocean.
Hello.
This is my baby
Ocean.
girl who has joined the podcast today. Yeah, she's a lover and she comes to get some love, and she's very
Oshi.
intuitive. Yeah, we call her Oshi. Uh-oh. Oshi's trying to get in here.
Scared that her tail.
Yeah. So, well, this is probably a good time to say
Yeah,
goodbye.
Oshi's like, enough. But she's like, come play with me. I want girl time too.
So, in wrapping up, tell everybody how they can find you, reach you.
Yes, the best place to find me is on Instagram. My handle is at seriousstyle_MIA.
Okay. And call her, please. It is not only a life-changing process, I can really say that, and experience, but it's so much fun. It just really is. You feel like you're the superstar of your own runway. And who doesn't need their own runway?
Yeah,
Right? So,
the fun of it all.
all right, friends, thank you for joining us today. Thank you for being a part of the Comfy Couch edition. And I will see you next week on the next episode of the Fierce and Flowing podcast. Take care.